There is nothing that brings great joy than to be able to welcome a new life into the world. We've all had that experience of holding a little infant in our hands, whether it be son or daughter, a nephew or niece, or a grandbaby, or a great-grandbaby. But nevertheless, we've all had that opportunity to be able to just hold a new life. And what joy there is in that little infant, and what great confidence lies within him or her to just kind of throw out their arms. You know how they do it. And then just, of course, they want to be held. And you do. And without saying anything, what happens? Well, they make you smile. They didn't say anything. Not yet, at least. And as much as you begin to smile and smile and smile, maybe they begin to frown because all of a sudden they don't want you to hold them anymore. But we still are rejoicing, even in their cry. And we are still holding them, never to let them slip through our hands or through our arms. Of course, there's no greater moment than for a parent, because this is yours, your son, your daughter, and with even greater care, you hold on to them, wanting to protect them from the world, wanting to assure them that they will always be loved. Isaiah gives us this wonderful depiction of a mother and how she will never forget the child. But even if she would, the Lord reminding us of how he will never. And I give us this depiction of a newborn because for all of us, it is like that with God. He looks upon us and he smiles. He holds us. He cradles us because he loves us. And that moment never ends with God. Never. In this world, we grow and we grow and we advance in age and we advance in our journey. But in the eyes of God, we are his little ones, the sheep of his flock. And all he desires to do is to protect us, as would any good parent, from the world. He wants to assure us that we are never alone and never forgotten. He wants to assure us that he will always lift us up in those moments that are very difficult and very overwhelming. He wants to assure us that the warmth of his love will serve as our blanket when the bitterness and the cold of the world is trying to get the best of us. This is all he offers you and me. And the only thing that he asks in return from us is that we be open to him doing it, giving it. Because it is our decision whether we want to be receptive of it or not. From him, it's always flowing out. It's always being given. But it's whether or not we are wanting to receive it. And when we do receive it and are open to it, then we will be open to sharing that with one another, keeping intact this wonderful family that he calls his own and that he is the head of. It keeps us together and it keeps us going. No matter what our differences may be in this world, what will keep us intact together as the family is what we have in common in him, whom we call Father. And St. Paul reminds us this day to not fall into the temptation of judging. Don't fall into that temptation, because that belongs solely to one person, and that is God. But at the same time, don't worry yourself about people judging you. Don't worry about yourself, about what people, for whatever reasons, conclude what they conclude about you. Don't give more to their words than what we are called to do in giving to the one who is the Word. Because as humans, we're going to err many a times. We're going to slip and we're going to fall, and unfortunately we fall into that temptation of wanting to judge one another. But the Father, in his wonderfulness, continues to pour out that love, and with it comes his mercy if we seek it. And on this day, we are reminded in the gospel how we cannot serve two masters. There must be one master in our life. Who will it be? Jesus reminds us, don't worry about tomorrow. I've given you today. What can you do today? Rather than worry about what is still unknown tomorrow. Don't worry about those things that really have no meaning, but embrace what does have great meaning, which is this moment right now that I have given you to share with each other, and a moment that is not ever meant to be wasted. And if we serve mammon, we will always be focused on our problems. We will always be focused on our troubles. We will always be focused on our differences. We will always be focused on our fears. We will always be focused on our limitations. We will always be reminded, if we serve mammon, of what we lack, of what we don't have. That's what mammon does. But if we serve God, we will always be reminded of our possibilities. We will always be reminded of our triumphs. We will always be reminded of our capabilities. We will always be reminded of our hope. We will always be focused on our faith. And we will always persevere. And he will always remind us of what we have. It is God, it is mammon. Mammon will keep us down. God will always lift us up. Who will you serve? I pray for you that, and for me, that it will always be God, who always sees the good in you, who always sees the potential in you, who always sees a person who has every ability to embrace today and to be able to continue to grow in this wonderful gift of love that he offers to you. He has never, ever dropped you, ever, nor will he ever drop us. He will hold you always, as a parent holds his newborn. That is how much God always carries us, always embraces us. And next time you see a parent or whoever holding a little one up here, and that little one's looking down and just smiling, realize how that is the way God holds you. Always. And always smiles at you. And will always have you near his heart. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. hold, believe what is true, that he will always have you. He will always be with you. He will never forget you, for he will always lift you up. And all that he would ask of you and me is that we remember that and do the same for each other. For the one he holds is all of his creation. No one is excluded. May we always be his hands, his feet. May we always be his love in this world, so that every person will always believe that they are remembered and never forgotten.